My name is Diane Hutchinson, and I am an artist who lives in Emmaus right now, but my hometown is Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and my favorite subject to paint is scenes of Bethlehem. I was honored to be the featured artist for Historic Bethlehem Museums and Sites, their annual holiday dinner and auction in 2016. And I did a painting for that event, and I'm very happy that it did sell. So since then, I enter paintings every time in the Historic Bethlehem Museums and Sites in their annual holiday dinner and auction, and I'm very happy to continue to paint scenes of Bethlehem. So what I would like to do today is a palette knife painting of the cherry blossoms that are outside the city center in Bethlehem. And I've done quite a few of these paintings, which I can show you later if you want to see them. Let me talk a little bit about my knives. I love to have a variety of knives. The best ones are made in Italy. The Italian ones are lovely and flexible and wonderful. So if you plan to buy knives, look for Italian and try to get a variety of sizes. So first I'm going to start with the colors that I'll be using, and these are oil paint. I have, for the sky, I'm using titanium white and cerulean blue. For the cherry blossoms, I'm using magenta or possibly alizarin crimson. I can interchange those. The trees in the grassy area, I'm using sap green and a cadmium yellow. So I will begin, and I'm going to start with the cherry blossoms because that is a beautiful, pure pink color, and I'd like to keep that as clear and lovely as possible. If you see, I don't know if you can see or not, but I have my iPad and I have a photograph pulled up that I took last week. And rather than just copy the photo, I like to make it an abstract. So what I love about this is the direction, the design of it. It's a series of triangles. So I want to reinforce that as I continue with the painting. So right now I'm putting the pink and the white together. My canvas, maybe you notice that it's a normal stretched canvas, but I put a Venetian red acrylic on there first. And I do that for a few reasons. One is if I miss a spot, that lovely red color comes through anyway. You don't have to do that, but I prefer doing that. So that's the basics of the cherry blossoms. Okay. And now I'm going to go up into the sky with my cerulean blue and white. I like to keep the sky light, so it's mostly white. Even though in the photograph the sky looks awfully blue, that fools you because sky's always a lot lighter than it appears in the photo. Unless it's a hurricane, something like that. So I don't want to go over too far because I want that nice tree back there. And I'm coming right down to the blossoms with the sky color. Now, underneath these trees, there is shadow. So in order to do the shadow, I'm taking the blue and a little Payne's gray, and I'm just going to start to put some darkness under here. I'm putting some of that magenta in there too. And then I'm going into the green. So those are the basic colors that I'm using throughout this whole painting. And I'm also doing a lot of scraping and keeping it fairly flat. Now I'm looking at that lovely spring green color that comes across here. The sunlight is coming down. It's hitting the ground right here. And I can take more of this green. And if you notice, even if I put the pure green down there and start to scrape it, it begins to mix with that yellow. And while I have this green, I'm going to go up into where this tree is. Just suggesting it's not an actual tree, it's just a suggestion of a tree up here behind the cherries. Now, this is the best part of the whole thing, where you start to integrate the colors with each other. So I'm bringing that dark green because without the dark, you don't have the light. So the value is, to me, the most important thing in the painting, which is the dark and the light and what that means. So now I'm going to take my paper towel, clean off the knife. I'm going to start to bring these cherry blossoms up. It's just like when you're icing a cake and you start to bring the icing and then you can schmutz it around and do all these things. But you can see how lovely you get that pink mixing with the green. And now I'm going into the sky, and the cherry blossom color is going up into the sky. So while you bring the cherry blossom color up into the sky, you're also bringing the sky color down into those blossoms. So you're doing two things at once. Now I'm going to integrate some of this pink down in here, just to unify the painting a little bit. And now here, I'm going to do the same thing I did up there, but down in here. So I'm taking the yellowy spring green, and I'm going to start to work it up into this shadow color. And you get some beautiful effects. And the nice thing about the palette knife is you don't always get what you expect. Because when you start to scrape down, you reveal some of the underneath. And sometimes it's a nice surprise. It's never awful though, because even if it's something that you think, oh, I don't want that to happen, it's very easy to get rid of it, make it all better. Now I'm going to bring the shadow up into the pink. And you can see it already doesn't look at all like my photograph. And now as I begin to get down into the bottom, I don't really want this road, even though it's neat with the shadows. If I was doing a realistic painting, I would probably keep those shadows in. But in this abstract, I would just as soon make it look like a grassy area. So that's the way I'm keeping it. This is the part where it gets tricky because you can easily get it onto your pants, like I do all the time, as you start to get down toward the bottom. Now, we're getting a lot of horizontal in here, so I'm going to start to bring some dark up, and I'm into the Payne's gray and the green, all my colors. And I just want to start to suggest something vertical to break up the boredom. The beauty of these stretch canvases is you can hold on to the wood, and that saves your pants for a little while. And because I don't want this to just be totally abstract where there's no actual identifiable objects in it, I'm going to put some trunks into my trees. And you're allowed to use a brush if you want. There are no rules with this. I like the brush. I want to suggest that these are trees, so I'm going to bring this up. And the minute you put a trunk in, it's already you start to see it's a tree. And this is actually a row that's growing. And they get smaller because they're going farther away. So that's about it for the trunks. And a beautiful thing happens if you start to go this way, that pink actually comes down into this dark area. And it helps to unify, and it's kind of one of those happy accidents that we were talking about. So now toward the end, what I like to do is start a lot of scraping. It integrates the colors so the painting doesn't appear all stripy. And you use up a lot of paint with this method. As if you try this, you'll see that. Putting a little bit of light into this tree, again, keeping those same colors. Dark, dark, dark. Okay, now I'm going to do some more scraping. If I were to let this dry and go back into it, it'd probably take about 3 or 4 days for it to dry. I could go back and do more detail, but I don't know that the detail is really necessary in something like this. It's more suggestive. And scrape. And a lot of what you scrape off, you can put on somewhere else. So you're not really wasting the paint. And I like to bring some of this up so that you can see if you go up very lightly, you're bringing that up and you're bringing the other down and you're getting some beautiful effects. And I want to see some of that pink down in here. And if you've ever gone into town and looked at the cherry blossoms, you'll notice they start to drop their beautiful little petals on the ground. And what's on the ground is almost as beautiful as what's still on the trees. So next time you're looking at those, look at the ground. And this is just about done. I don't want to overwork it. I don't want it to look too literal. I don't want it to look too abstract. I want to just get that balance. Put some red down in here, just for good measure.
So I would say that's finished.
I appreciate you tuning in. I am on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm out there everywhere. If you want to look for my pages, I appreciate it. And continue to support Historic Bethlehem Museums and Sites. It's a wonderful organization. Thank you.